Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Just hours after former Congressman Matt Gaetz dropped his embattled bid to be Attorney General, Donald Trump had a new choice to run the Justice Department: former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, a Trump loyalist sometimes seen on stage at Trump rallies.
President Trump has been out there fighting for us non-stop. And if he's out there fighting for us, we're going to fight for him.
In announcing his choice, Trump praised Bondi as a smart and tough America First fighter, pledging she will, quote, refocus the DOJ to its intended purpose of fighting crime and making America safe again. Bondi served as Florida's Attorney General from 2011 to 2019, a tenure not without controversy, including her decision to pass on a case against Trump University shortly after receiving a donation from the Trump Foundation. But both Trump and Bondi deny any wrongdoing. After Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election, Bondi backed Trump's false claims of election fraud. More recently, she has worked as a lobbyist and a registered foreign agent. Among her past clients, the government of Qatar. Perhaps most importantly to Trump, she's been a loyal member of his inner circle for years now, joining him on the campaign trail back in 2016.
I can tell you firsthand, when it comes to law and order, you know I don't mess around, and neither does Donald Trump.
And serving on Trump's legal team during his first impeachment trial.
They threw due process, fundamental fairness, and our Constitution out the window in the House proceedings. That's why we're here.
Bondi's nomination comes after her fellow Florida Republican Matt Gaetz bowed out, withdrawing his bid amid allegations he used drugs and paid young women for sex. Sources tell ABC that one of the women also testified to the House Ethics Committee that she saw Gaetz having sex with a 17-year-old girl. Gaetz denies all of the allegations.
Now, this is what we were talking about yesterday, how, Gaetz was so unbelievably grotesque that he was vomit-inducing, basically, the idea of him at, ecstasy and Viagra, Red Bull-fueled sex parties with underage girls who he was paying on Venmo and Cash App and, PayPal. It was just so that anybody that they put forward after him would be like, whew, dodged a bullet. Let's just confirm this one. Let's just do this one. No matter what the problems with this one is. And with her, there are, in a sentence, I could tell you what's wrong with Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi takes money. Period. She takes money to do whatever it is you want her to do with the full power of her office as Attorney General in the state of Florida. She did it to people who were being foreclosed on. She literally oversaw an inordinate amount of complaints from people who, during the foreclosure crisis under the other Republican president, the Bush years, remember that? So what was happening was banks were taking good mortgages and bad mortgages. Are you a good mortgage or a bad mortgage? Are you ready for Wicked? I'm so excited. I can't even stand it. I made you this hand pink and this hand green. I stole it from Jess, who's already done it. And then on this finger, she actually has an Elphaba hat. And on this finger, she has bubbles for Galinda, who comes in the bubble. Oh, my God. And don't we need joy? Yes, terribly. So this is my big goal, is just to get through to next week for the big Thanksgiving holiday, where my family who loves me will come and I can nestle in their armpit as they nestle in mine. I mean, we'll both do for each other what we would want the other to do for us, and then go to the movies, because that's what I do. I go to the What do you mean go to the movies? Where is the movies? It's in a theater. A what? Yeah, it's a great big building. Ours actually has a bowling alley in it. I don't know why. Apparently going to the movies isn't enough of a draw, so you have to have a bowling alley there too. I don't know. Do they serve alcohol in the movies? They do now, which is very weird. It's Florida. is Florida. Do I really want to be in a movie theater with drunk people? No, I don't. Especially if you have, the caliber of law enforcement like Pam Bondi. Okay, so I digress. So when we were having this mortgage, debacle, the banks needed to securitize the bad mortgages, and they couldn't find any takers. So what they decided to do was shred the good mortgages into little pieces, like you were making the coleslaw, and then shred the bad mortgages into little pieces, like you were making the coleslaw. So this would be the green cabbage, the good ones. The red cabbage would be the bad ones. The red cabbage, what they didn't tell you, had E. coli. Okay? Or, just to make it modern, listeria seems to be the new bacterial infection. Okay, in food. So they would shred them together so you couldn't tell which were the good mortgages and which were the bad mortgages. There were a lot of complaints in Florida from people who were being foreclosed on erroneously, falsely, and that the documents that were being sent to them were either robo-signed or had dates that were like 9/99 9999. What? Yes, that would be on the foreclosure documents. And it would actually say on the foreclosure documents in the section where the signature went, it would literally say, and thank you to David Dian, who wrote this up today in the American Prospect so that we could review. In the signature, on the signature line, it would say, bogus assignee. I swear to God, those words, bogus assignee. With the year 99999. People were like, wait, what? Who is actually foreclosing on me? Why is this bank document signed by bogus assignee and dated, like 1,000 years in the future or 700 years in the future, And Pam Bondi, was not our attorney general at this point. People were actually being represented by lawyers in this state who were bringing these cases to court to bring attention to the fact that mortgage holders were being foreclosed on erroneously. That went on from 2008, 2009, 2010. We had a little election here, yeah. And what we got was Pam Bondi as the Attorney General of the United States. Well, guess what happened? Guess, everybody. Just take a stab at it. The people who had done the work prior to Pam Bondi entering the Attorney General's office had opened up investigations into these, foreclosure mills, literally. And we know that it was Lender Processing Services, Florida Default Law Group, the Law Office of David J. Stern, Marshall C. Watson, Shapiro and Fishman. It was a giant foreclosure machine that was working against homeowners here in Florida. There were two lawyers who got the lion's share. And one of my friends, by the way, to this day, fights these fights. But back then, it was these two lawyers that brought attention to this, June Clarkson and Teresa Edwards. They were just two, solo practitioners. They joined forces, and they brought these cases on behalf of the wrongfully foreclosed on homeowners. And, they identified a lot of the foreclosure machines, law offices, like where were these documents coming from, and trace the documents all the way back to Guam. Swear to God, can't make this up. Guam and the Philippines. They were document shops that were forging documents for the banks in Guam and the Philippines and issuing these fake documents, and then paralegals at these law firms would sign them. In October of 2010, all the leading banks stopped pursuing foreclosures in the state of Florida thanks to these independent, very hardworking, dedicated solo practitioners, these lawyers who brought this to light, okay? Then we got Pam Bondi. Guess what happened to all those cases, everybody? Just guess. Right, they all went away. Every one of them went away from 2010 to today. Pam Bondi was issuing warnings to these attorneys, these prosecutors, and telling them, you better lay low. Do not pursue these cases.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Just announced, the president-elect has selected
Pam Bondi as the next Attorney General of the United States. I'll read from this announcement from the President-elect. I'm proud to announce former Attorney General of the great state of Florida, Pam Bondi, as our next Attorney General of the United States. Pam was a prosecutor for nearly 20 years, where she was very tough on violent criminals and made the streets safe for Florida families. Then, as Florida's first female Attorney General, she worked to stop the trafficking of deadly drugs and reduce the tragedy of fentanyl overdoses deaths, which have destroyed many families in our country. She did such an incredible job that I asked her to serve as our Opioid and Drug Abuse Commission. During my first term, we saved many lives. Again, he goes on to say she's smart and tough and is America's first fighter who will do a terrific job as Attorney General.
Okay, so I'll tell you one of the perps, one of the big threats to our security and safety here in Florida that Pam Bondi prosecuted. Dwight Gooden, thank God. Thank God. Yeah, she put Dwight Gooden in jail for violating his parole, the drugs thing. So now the streets are safe.
Honestly, as a Mets fan, I'm offended.
Yeah, right. So there's that. And then the fentanyl thing. I could tell you in my neighborhood, just in my neighborhood alone, I know at least 3 people who died from fentanyl overdoses. Okay. I know at least 3. Truly. So great job there, Pam. Really well done on that, Trump assignment. Okay. So let me go back to the big problems with her. Okay. The big problems with her. And like I said, in a sentence, you can sum this all up, what I'm about to show you and tell you. Pam Bondi is for sale. Pam Bondi should just hang a for sale sign outside of any office in which she's toiling. Right now, she's at a lobby shop, Ballard, okay? She lobbies for GM and Uber, the nation of Qatar. Seriously, that is what Pam Bondi does. That's who pays Pam Bondi now, right? Okay. But back to this horrible story, because this is what was going on here in Florida. And my neighborhood that used to be full of homeowners is now full of renters. And they're renting their homes from the bank. How did the banks get these homes? Pam Bondi. Okay, so like I said, you had these 2 independent attorneys, and as I have a friend, her name's Lori. She's an amazing woman. She goes into court all the time on behalf of wrongfully foreclosed homeowners. She's been doing it since this crisis happened, okay? She finally decided, I'm selling everything and I'm moving to the beach. Yay, Lori. She has the right idea. Why I don't do it, I don't know. But anyway, these cases were making their way through the Florida court system until 2010. In 2010, we had an election, and Pam Bondi became the Attorney General in 2010 in Florida, thanks in part to massive donations, thousands and thousands of dollars in contributions from none other than these foreclosure mills, Lender Processing Services, and all of its affiliates. And after she heard about a slide presentation that Clarkson and Edwards, the 2 independent attorneys, the two June Clarkson and Teresa Edwards, the 2 attorneys who were representing wrongfully foreclosed on homeowners, after Pam Bondi heard about the slide presentation that Clarkson Edwards were giving to county clerks in Florida, that actually walked them through how the Lender Processing Services and their affiliate employees were signing these fake documents for J.P. Morgan Chase, because J.P. Morgan Chase had entered into a very limited power of attorney agreement just for the purpose of getting these documents signed off on. And again, the signature line said bogus signature, and the date was like 9/9/9999. And so she sat, Pam Bondi, and watched this slideshow that was going to the county clerks. And she dispatched, Pam Bondi did, the Economic Crimes Unit Director to go and scream at any and all of the county clerks in Florida who might actually take a look at these documents and move the case forward. Clarkson and Edwards were deliberately frozen out of the 50 state attorney general investigations of foreclosure fraud, despite the fact that they had the most knowledge of how this caper was happening, how it was working, who was doing it, which were the perpetrators, how the paralegals were signing, what they were. they were frozen out. And they were told to transition their case over to Pam Bondi's economic crimes unit without any transition notes. I mean, they didn't want any notes from them. They didn't want the slide presentation. They didn't want just hand it over to the economic crimes unit in the state of Florida. And then most of the cases against the foreclosure mills were taken away from the line prosecutors. They were taken away from Clarkson and Edwards without the notes and assigned new prosecutors. That was in 2010. In 2011, Clarkson and Edwards were fired. And when they asked their supervisor, why are we being fired? We independently, were receiving complaints from Floridians. And we were able to, do the legwork, and we were able to do the whole investigation. And we found out the names of these places. They were doing it under a limited, power of attorney agreement with J.P. Morgan Chase. It was coming from Guam. It was coming. Why are we being fired? And the answer they got was, quote, "It came from the top. Tallahassee didn't give me a reason." Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi then issued a memo smearing these two attorneys, smearing them for lack of professionalism and for having messy desks. Yep. And this was in response to corporate lobbyists who were lobbying Pam Bondi to shut this down. Banks to shut this down. Big law groups shut it down. And she did. And that was the first clue that people like me who follow this stuff, because, I was a broadcaster in Florida, got that we just hired ourselves a dirty attorney general, somebody that would kill consumer cases against people who were being foreclosed on at a pace you never, ever, ever saw in your life. 2008, oh my God, man, holy crap. And that's when the banks took over so many properties in this here state, in my neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. And just for the cherry on the cake of the story, I just want you to know that once Pam Bondi became the Attorney General, not one additional subpoena was ever issued on a foreclosure mill ever again. Ever again. Now, some of you may know the story of Donald Trump's university, a fraud case against his university. How did that make its way to Pam Bondi's office? Because it did. Well, there were Floridians who had attended Trump University and paid about $34,000 for this education in real estate that Donald Trump was going to teach himself the art of the deal. And they were defrauded out of their tuition. They never received half of what they were promised. And they complained to the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, who started to investigate it. That turned into a payday for her, too, from Donald Trump. And they've been friends ever since.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Prosecutors will be prosecuted, the bad ones. The investigators will be investigated, because the deep state, last term for President Trump, they were hiding in the shadows. But now they have a spotlight on them, and they can all be investigated, and the House needs to be cleaned out.
It's so laughable. She's the dirtiest person. I mean, just she is a filthy, dirty prosecutor. So just so you understand why what she did is so important to you today. For those people who, really voted because the rent is too damn high, or voted because you don't have, the prospect of buying a home of your own, I just want you to understand that when all this was going on in 2008-9, and she stopped prosecuting these foreclosure mills, who were then giving these properties over to banks, and then banks were able to securitize them and sell them off to private equity investors, who now are your landlords. Can you see how that affects the price of rice for you? Do you see how this all actually played out? And that rentals and, housing prices are through the freaking roof. and that more and more of the rental units in this country are owned by private equity and not owned by somebody who's just renting out a room or renting out an apartment or owns a two-family house like we did when I was growing up and renting to, two sisters downstairs who had a beautiful collie. They were typists. They would type. All day they typed. That's what they did. I mean, honestly, this is all connected. This is all, something that really dirty prosecutors, that people who are for sale did to us and continue to want to do to us. It's an amazing thing when you can actually hone in on a person who was there and who was bought and who never served a subpoena on any of these foreclosure mills ever again and fired the two prosecutors that were representing Florida homeowners who were being wrongfully foreclosed on because they were shredding good mortgages with bad mortgages in a big bowl. The bad mortgages, imagine they had E. coli, okay? So now the good mortgages have E. coli because they were put in one big bowl. And then they were doled out. And we got stuck holding the bag of E. coli. Truly, that's what happened to us in that housing debacle. And she was one, by the way, if you were foreclosed on wrongly in Michigan, Pam Bondi. Yeah, Michigan reached out to Pam Bondi and asked her, how do we do this? How do we do it? That organization, LPS, the lenders that were doing this, they encouraged Pam Bondi's office to lobby for them in Michigan, their counterparts, their affiliates in Michigan who were doing the same caper. And she did. Now, fast forward to Donald Trump's, problem. Donald Trump was, committing fraud against his students at Trump University. That's already been adjudicated. Remember, Donald Trump said you can't trust Judge Curiel, who was presiding over that case because his father came from Mexico or some such crap. I mean, it was just, it was bizarre. It was so strange. But when the fraud case for Trump University hit Florida, because there were people in Florida who actually were damaged by attending and paying Trump University for an education, there were actually a couple of dozen complaints here in the state, right? That was 2013. She was already the Attorney General, and she got about 24 complaints about Trump University, and it was a for-profit, and that they were ripped off. And she was considering joining a multi-state lawsuit against Trump University on behalf of students who were ripped off. They were cheated. 4 days after Pam Bondi indicated she might be joining this multi-state lawsuit on behalf of the 24 who were hurt in Florida by him, her political action committee received a donation. It was $25,000 from a not-for-profit, a charity funded by Donald Trump. Trump's charity made a political donation in the amount of $25,000 to Pam Bondi to not join the multi-state fraud case against Trump University. And guess what? She said okay. And she didn't join the multi-state lawsuit against Trump University, which, by the way, ended up in a verdict against Trump University by Judge Curiel and a jury there. So she takes money to do things, to guarantee outcomes for wealthy donors, for people who give her money. Now she's a lobbyist, so now this is legal bribery. She's no longer the Attorney General, so now she's legalized her bad behavior by joining a lobbyist shop, a lobby shop, and she lobbies for people like Amazon and against the unions, okay, against union formation, against union, strikes, all this stuff, okay, and the nation of Qatar. Don't ask me why. She also then became a lawyer for Donald Trump at his first impeachment in the House of Representatives. I don't know if you remember her awesome legal skills. Does anybody recall? I remember I was stunned when she became. I mean, it was like this thing was such a clown show. Remember the lawyers for Donald Trump during the first impeachment, where he did get impeached. Okay, he was impeached. He wasn't removed because the Senate, Mitch McConnell, refused to uphold the law. Anyway, it was Alan Dershowitz was the lawyer for Donald Trump during this period of time, and Pam Bondi.
He remained on the board until April of 2019. We also know that
there's some awesome lawyering skills she's got there. I mean, why not just nominate Alina Habba and get it over with? I mean, why not? Why not? Holy crap. So that was Pam Bondi's stellar performance, showing off her massive skills as a litigator in the first Trump impeachment, which ended in Trump being impeached. Okay, so she does that work for him. And then once Donald Trump loses the election in the following election cycle in 2020, Pam Bondi becomes an election denier. Oh, yes. Pam Bondi becomes an election denier and they send her to Pennsylvania, where she's accusing Pennsylvania of, having illegal ballots counted, fake ballots counted. And even Fox News was like, wait a minute, are you saying that you saw fake ballots? And she's like, no, I'm saying there could be fake ballots. They were like, well, just stick to the facts. Could you just do that? No, she can't. Oh, my God.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
In 2013, the Donald J. Trump Foundation donated $25,000 to a super PAC tied to Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, as her office was considering a fraud investigation into Trump University. That investigation was never opened. Today, Bondi accused Hillary Clinton of trying to gin up outrage.
Of course I asked Donald Trump for a contribution. That's not what this is about. She was saying he was under investigation by my office at the time, and I knew about it, none of which is true.
Despite bragging during the primary, he knew how to work the system.
I got to give to them, because when I want something, I get it. When I call, they kiss my ass.
Caught dead to rights there. And, Hillary was not lying. Pam Bondi did know about Trump University. She had 24 complaints from Floridians who were ripped off and cheated by Donald Trump's fake university. She was investigating it, and Donald Trump then made a $25,000 donation to her political action committee through a charity, by the way. He actually had to pay a fine for making that contribution to her political action committee through the Trump Foundation, which is now defunct. It's now closed. It's now prohibited by law from existing because it was fraud. That was the charity was fraudulent too, not just the university, the charity too. Not just the Trump organization either. In New York, 34 felonies, that's the one. But all of these entities that Donald Trump's name was slapped on, they're all fraudulent entities. They're all. Anyway, she did know, and she did not pursue. And it was not just, her opening up a case on behalf of these 24. It was joining a case. It's so interesting because Kamala Harris, with whom she may be compared. Why? Because they were both attorney generals. One of the great state of California, where she actually did join other states in order to get $18 billion for wrongly foreclosed on California homeowners. Remember that? Now, she should have harped on that a whole lot more because housing is a big, big, big problem in this country. And that's how Kamala Harris knew Beau Biden. Beau Biden was attorney general in Delaware at the time. And the attorney generals of these states all were meeting in, it's like the Governors Association. They have an Attorney General's Association where they all, get together and they look at, crimes that cross state lines, and they decide whether or not they want to pool their resources and bring a case on behalf of the people in their state who were hurt by the scam, who were hurt by the caper, who were hurt by whatever the, a fraud is, right? And so Kamala Harris actually the banks offered her, I think, $2 billion. And she said no. And she stayed in it and advocated for her homeowners, and got an $18 billion settlement for her homeowners. Okay. Pam Bondi, on the other hand, decided to kill the investigation into the scam artists who were wrongfully foreclosing on Florida homeowners. Do you see the difference in the character and nature of the person? Do not compare Pam Bondi to Kamala Harris, because there is a comparison to be made. Now, it's so interesting because I was just going to email Cory Booker, from New Jersey, because he sits on the Judiciary Committee. And if this thing actually goes full on to the confirmation hearings for a Pam Bondi, I'm guessing it may not, because yesterday Ken Paxton, also a securities fraudster, guy who committed securities fraud, yes, actually was able to get out of it. Just recently settled his fraud case, his securities fraud case. He was groveling on Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon, who just got out of jail. I mean, aren't they supposed to avoid palling around with felons? Isn't that part of the probation? I don't know. I'll ask Dwight Gooden. I'll ask Dwight Gooden, what constitutes a parole violation, because, he would know, because Pam Bondi put him in jail for that. But anyway, I'm listening to, Ken Paxton, who's groveling on Bannon's show, trying to be the next Attorney General of the United States at the same exact moment that Donald Trump was announcing Pam Bondi. The thing is, we're not going to get anybody with clean hands. Anyway, so I was going to email Cory Booker on his website, on the Judiciary Committee's website. He's got, his own, but his contact page is broken. Great. And they're all on TV going, the Democrats have got to reclaim their ground as being the party of the working Joe, as being the party of the everyman, as being the party of the American dream, as being the party of ordinary working people, not of the wealthy, not of the billionaire class, not of the corporate class. There's a perfect opportunity. But I can't contact him because his contact page is broken. Not good? That's good. I got to tell you one other thing Pam Bondi did. This is one of my favorite things she ever did. And this probably won't make the mainstream media, but it should, because it's so gross. It's so typical. So back when Bondi was the Attorney General, we had the biggest fraud that was ever committed against the Medicare Trust Fund, which now the Dogebags are looking at to make decisions about waste and fraud. And what's so fascinating is one of the biggest Medicare fraudsters in the history of the program, in the history of the trust fund, is the senator from Florida, Rick Scott. He was the CEO of a hospital chain called HCA. And HCA was billing Medicare for tests it didn't do, the typical stuff. But because it was a chain of hospitals that he was the CEO of, they could bill multiply it by, thousands and thousands of erroneous fake claims. He finally got caught. They settled. It was like a multi-million-dollar payment that he had to, his company made. Might have been like $1 billion. It was a lot. It was a lot. Anyway, now he's a senator from Florida. No muss, no fuss. And they're looking for fraudsters. There's one sitting right there in the Senate. Anyway, during Pam Bondi's reign of terror, he was the governor. He was the actual governor of Florida. There was an execution in 2013 that was scheduled on the same night that Pam Bondi had a fundraiser. And she's the Attorney General. She didn't want to not be there, or available. So she asked Rick Scott if they could postpone the execution so it wouldn't conflict with her fundraiser. And he did it. Florida. That's what make America Florida again. Everybody that Trump is picking is coming from this here corrupt state. Everybody, if you just look at, Gaetz was from here. So now Gaetz said, we had a question yesterday about, he was elected to the next Congress. He resigned from this one. Is he, still, he was still eligible to be a congressman in the next, 119th Congress? He could have. He said, no, he's not going to be. I don't know if he's got his eye on Marco Rubio's soon-to-be empty seat, because Marco is, from Florida and supposed to be, confirmed as our Secretary of State. And because these nominees are so putrid, he's looking good. Slam dunk for Marco, little Marco. Because, unless they find him with a dead goat, a live boy, or in the bathroom tapping his toe underneath the stalls, to a gay man, he's probably a shoo-in. But it's just amazing how everybody's coming from Florida, right? So if Marco is elevated to state, that means his Senate seat. That means that Ron DeSantis, who's term limited, which is important to know going forward, could temporarily appoint somebody, and maybe that somebody is Matt Gaetz. Although I don't think they get along all that well, because Matt Gaetz has pissed off everybody in the universe. Like, anybody and everybody who ever came into his orbit hates him, really despises him, thinks he's just grotesque, pervy, nasty, drug dealer, drug taker, perv, prostitute hirer, whatever. So I don't know if that's a thing. Now they're starting to say, well, because DeSantis is term limited and because they don't like each other, it's completely possible that Gaetz wants to replace DeSantis as governor of Florida, in which case I'm going to flee so fast I'm going to leave skid marks. Because no one will be safe. No one. Not little boys, not little girls. Nobody in the mall, nobody at Sephora, nobody, will be safe. It will be like Epstein 2, the sequel, and sequels always suck. Wait till you see this Trump 2.0, they're calling it, to make it seem like it's a normal thing that happens. It doesn't happen. This is not normal. But anyway, that's Pam Bondi. So if Pam doesn't make it, and here's the thing. Would you have heard most of this? Some of it I know you will hear or have heard. But would you hear most of this that I just told you about her, about the fact that she takes money? You'll hear about the $25K. Well, you might hear that she's an election denier. Will you hear about how she postponed an execution, calling the governor to postpone, so it didn't conflict with one of her fundraisers? Will you hear how she didn't pursue people who were wrongfully being foreclosed on? How she actually lobbied in Michigan for the same illicit foreclosure company that was getting documents from Guam and the Philippines and using their paralegals to sign? No, you won't. You know why? Media matters.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
We're hearing that Attorney General nominee, former Congressman Matt Gaetz, has withdrawn his nomination for Attorney General. But Dana, this comes about 45 minutes after we reached out to him about some new reporting that we have. And this new reporting is that there was a second sexual encounter between him and an underage woman at a party in 2017. Now, I have covered the investigation into allegations that the congressman may have had sex with a minor for 4 years now. And Dana, this was the first time that we had learned that the underage woman had testified to a second sexual encounter. And I learned from my sources, along with our colleague Sarah Ferris, that she had testified to this to the House Ethics Committee.
So why am I playing Paula Reed? Why am I doing that from yesterday? Because it matters what she does for a living. Journalism mattered yesterday. You could thank Paula Reed and CNN. I know a lot of you don't want to do this, but you should thank them for sparing you Attorney General Matt Gaetz. Because without journalism and without people saying, we just called him 45 minutes ago, we just called him to let him know that we were going to press with a story that he had, been with this 17-year-old more than once. And she testified that way to the ethics committee. And her deposition is in my possession. And you've had it too. And you're lying about that. And then he resigns. Then he takes himself out of the running, okay? It's all because it's exposed. It's all because there's a free press in this country. That is what keeps people like Pam Bondi, like Matt Gaetz, like Donald Trump. It keeps them, I don't want to say honest, but it keeps you informed about their lack of honesty, their dishonesty, their lack of character, their lack of integrity, their win at all costs, even if it means you are going to see 80% of the housing units in this country be sold to private equity firms who will then jack up your rents, and you won't know what hit you, but it's really because attorneys general like Paxton, like Bondi, in Michigan, she lobbied to have the same result there. We were foreclosed on because they didn't do their jobs. Because they took money. And the only way for anybody to know what's really happening to them is to shine a light upon it. Sunlight. It's the best disinfectant. They're very busy calling us vermin. They're very busy calling us every name that they can concoct that would be, just gross. But they're the gross ones. They're the ones that are taking away the American dream. They're the ones that are taking away your rights. They're the ones that are literally lying to you on an endless loop. They're the ones who took over the media. I mean, there is no such thing in this country as a left-leaning media that can compete with the right-wing media. And it's been like this my entire career, okay? And I've had a long career, 20 years at least, right? And it's been like this. And now it's about to get worse. Why do I know that? Because there was an article in the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal. Rupert Murdoch's paper saying that Comcast is going to spin off the news, meaning CNBC and MSNBC. They don't want to be in the news business anymore. Now, what's interesting is Comcast bought NBC because of cable news at the beginning, okay? When they took over, I think it was 2011, okay? Cable news was the big, revenue generator. It was everything. And now it's, being attacked by everything from TikTok to Twitter, all, media, social media that doesn't really have your best interests at heart, okay? Really doesn't. It's not going to inform you properly. It's not going to tell you what I just told you about some dirty politicians who caused the American dream to just disappear. And no one can figure out where it went. Why is this happening? I just told you, and you know what? There's plenty of room on the few hours of liberal media that there is for them to tell it to you again and again and again. Now, many a day I go home and I hear everything that I've said echoed on some outlets, and I'm grateful for it, really. I'm glad. I'm very glad. I started calling them sex pests. Guess what? They're all calling them sex pests. That's fine. Go for it. Enlighten as many people as you possibly freaking can. I will tell you that there is a plan in the making. There is a plan that is burling, a plan that is starting to come to fruition about how to deal and cope with this next, administration, because it seems kind of daunting. However, here's what you need to know, too. This is a really useful little factoid. It's a fact. I don't know why I would diminish it. We have 23 Democratic governors in this here country. That's a lot of governors. That's like half of the states. And trust me, they're organizing, and they're going to fight back. If, their National Guard is called upon, let's say, in, Colorado, to go do removals, like we're talking about, waxy film buildup on a floor, removal. Like we're talking about, pimples. A mole you don't like. No, we're talking about human beings. Human beings who work human beings who pay taxes, human beings who send their kids to school, but are not here with papers. They're not here legally. Well, Colorado's already said that if they try to use the National Guard in Colorado to do removals of humans, they will not participate. And so what would be left to happen is Donald Trump would federalize the National Guard in Arkansas, or federal, because he won't, he said he will not allow it in Colorado. So what are we going to have now? The Arkansas National Guard, the Texas National Guard be federalized and go into Colorado. Can you imagine what that would look like? It won't be, believe me, people would be out on the street. Moms in Colorado would be out on the street screaming about the military in their neighborhood. I mean, it's just can't play in Peoria. You understand what I'm saying? But back to the Wall Street Journal. So the Wall Street Journal has an article in there saying that they're going to spin off MSNBC. They're going to spin off CNBC. They're going to spin off, and they're going to put it into a silo, a grain silo, if you will, if you must, if you may, with USA Network, Oxygen, Oprah's network, Sci-Fi Network, and the Golf Channel. You know what that means? That means that MSNBC and CNBC lose all of the network capabilities. They lose management. They lose salespeople. They lose the news division is now on its own. It can't go to NBC proper and use their reporting or use their reporters or use their their bookers or any of the internal And I know what it's like to do it without all of that, because we do it without any of that. It's me and Brett, and Sean is sitting in Virginia, okay? That's our staff. That's the Randi Rhodes Show, the crew, literally. And I'm reading that Rachel Maddow had to take a pay cut from $30 million a year down to $25 million a year. Oh, boo effing who. I don't think she minds.
Is she okay?
I think she's okay. I think she's probably fishing right now and fine.
Okay, good.
Now, her agent, I don't have an agent. I never did have an agent. That was a big mistake. Okay, just saying. But hers is, what's his name? From Ari, oh, you know who I'm talking about. He was, they modeled that whole show on HBO after him.
Entourage?
Yes, Entourage. What's his name?
Ari something.
Right.
Yes.
And they're brothers, right? One's a politician, the other's a Zeke. Ari Emanuel. It's the Emanuel brothers. There's three of them. There's Ari, there's Zeke, and there's Ron. Ron. Damn it.
Watched it on TV.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Well, it's very sad that they're spinning off MSNBC, because without MSNBC, you would never know that there was any plan at all by Democratic governors to push back on what is coming. And they are organized. And this is good news for us, because here we were out on the streets doing, I have one, but I never put it on my kepi. I never put it on my head. I would never walk out the door with one on my face. A pink pea hat. I can't even say it, okay? Were we really doing that? You know, that goes down with like the freaky thing. Remember Jazz Hands from Occupy Wall Street? Oh, God. Why, as, our annoying children say to us as the adults in the room. Why, yeah. Oh, but we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing a woman's march. We're not going to ask our black friends to, do the heavy lifting. They're done. I don't blame black women. They're like, what's wrong with white women? What is wrong with you people? 52% of white women voted for this man, for Orange Jesus. They literally did. And black women have had it with us, even us, the good ones. And I don't blame them. So we're not going to be doing performative art as a protest anymore. Now we're going local, just like they did. We're going to go local in blue states. Blue states are going to look to their city councils. Blue states are going to look to their mayors. Blue states need to look to their governors who are organized and ready to refuse to participate in the removal of human beings from their various states. And there are 23 of them, 23 Democratic governors. Last night, one of our listeners sent me an email. She's from New Mexico, saying that all the women in New Mexico were talking about an appearance on MSNBC by their governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham. And she was phenomenal. She sent me the link, which was so smart because then I didn't have to go look for it. I could just click on it and go. And it was amazeballs. She and others like Jared Polis and Pritzker from Illinois. I don't know so much about Phil from New Jersey. Phil, I think, has had it. He's term limited at 26. This is his last year. I think he's out. Okay. I don't think he wants to defend New Jersey, help New Jersey. I'm not sure he's, down with the plan. But just about every Democratic governor, even Andy Beshear in Kentucky, that you could think of, they're ready to push back, and they're ready to push back hard. So I'm going to play you Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, who was on Morning Joe yesterday, and Jen Psaki was there, and maybe they'll hand off the show to Jen. Because you know what happened, don't you? Yeah, I think you do. Mika and Joe went to kiss the ring at Magaloco, and they lost 40% of their viewers. Yeah, people are not buying in. 40%, and now MSNBC is being spun off. And some private equity person or a Murdoch is going to come along and take it and turn it into a more conservative media. There's just no question in my mind. To do what we do, meaning me and Brett and Sean every single freaking day for like no money, you just don't come across that all that often. It's like, pay me, F you pay me. And they all have agents. And it was Rahm Emanuel. That's whose name I was groping for. So there's the three brothers, right? There's Ari Emanuel, who is an agent, a very powerful one. He's the one that they modeled Ari Gold from
Entourage.
I always want to say Reservoir Dogs. Don't ask me why. That's
Yikes.
I know.
Diametrically opposed.
I know. But just Entourage. Yeah, Entourage. And there's a little throwback there. And then you had Zeke. Zeke is a doctor, like an infectious diseases guy who we came to rely on during COVID. And then Rahm Emanuel, who was the mayor of Chicago and, may make a play for something or other soon. I don't know. I don't know what his intentions are, but politician. Anyway, so I'm scared about what's going to happen to the little outlet that we have, which is, when you consider cable news, and I say little outlet, like I said, where I am in the media, it's where if media is a totem pole, we are where the dog would lift its leg. That's where we are on the totem pole of media. I totally get it, okay? Because I was in media at a larger, higher, but not anymore. Okay. So if you have cable news and they're getting 2 million viewers, that's good. Do you understand how little, when I say a little media outlet like MSNBC is? So Fox News on a very, very good night, 3 million people. Okay, 3 million. Most people are getting their news off of TikTok, Facebook, news feeds, Apple News, all of it, and quite frankly, there's no analysis, there's no context, there's no deep dive, there's no, deep reading that's going on, and that's what, news people who give a damn about you do. They do the reading, they do the deep dive, they do the highlighting, they do the pulling of the clip of the thing that the person said that you should hear, and that's not going to get done. It's just not going to get done anymore. If Murdoch comes in and swoops it, let me tell you another thing that's going to happen. I've been harping on this not-for-profit bill that passed the House yesterday, where they want to defund not-for-profits because, the Doge bags are coming around looking for waste and fraud. Not that they want to look at Rick Scott and his billions of dollars of ripping off Medicare and saying he's got to go. No, they want to do NPR funding. They want to do education funding. The 14% that the feds send down to the locals, right? They want to cut that. And they want to cut public broadcasting. They want to cut NPR and PBS. And Elise Stefanik, who is a top member of the Republican House leadership, unambiguously posted on X, quote, "I will defund NPR," in all caps, in all caps. So we're going to be without any guiding lights. We're going to be without any, I don't even want to say left media or liberal media, because I find nothing liberal about the truth. I find nothing, I guess it's a progressive idea now that you should have news in context and truth, because we're in a post-truth world now, I guess. Anyway, one of my listeners sent me this clip. I thought that you should experience what the Democratic governors are planning, how they're going to resist, so that we don't have to wear pink knitted caps with horns on them and think that there is, I don't know, a symmetrical face that could pull it off and make that look good. No, there isn't a symmetrical face in the world that could make a pink pussy hat look good, okay? Sorry, ain't happening. Dumb. Really dumb look. The jazz hands were also creepy, bad. Don't understand it. There's so much that we did that is just mortifying when I, consider that we did it. So thank God the professionals are now going to take over. And I want you to hear some of it so you know.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Governor Psaki, you've said that you're not going to help with Donald Trump's aspirations to do mass deportations. I think there are a lot of people out there who are happy to hear that. What can you specifically do to stop his efforts moving forward as once he becomes president?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, as you know, it's unlawful. You can't use the military. You can't do mass deportation. So any federal administration, you should expect states, and I think you should expect some bipartisan support, not just by the Democratic governors, is that violating the Constitution and the law. We're not going to do that. We ought to be working on making sure that violent criminals and criminal activity is stopped everywhere. There isn't a state that isn't interested, whether you're an American citizen or not. And he effectively, Trump, killed the bipartisan border deal. Not the first time that he's done that. Right. We need more agents. We need more collective effort so that we're bringing border security and holding people accountable where they are. Disrupting family status and the economy, inhumane, cruel, unfair, discriminate policies that, again, are illegal on their face. We are not going to cooperate in any way in that effort.
That's first of all, can I just say she has the best hair of any politician I've seen in a really, really long time. That's saying something. I just love her hair. I love it. But she's serious about this, and so are the other 22 governors of blue states. And she's trying to say, and maybe even some red state governors will be a little opposed to violating the Constitution. Posse comitatus. Get ready to hear that ad nauseum. Posse comitatus. Pink posse hats. Yeah, like that. It's illegal for the military to operate in a military way against American citizens on American soil. But the military, the National Guard's already down at the border, Randi. You don't know what you're talking about. Take your left-wing propaganda and shove it up your ass. No, they're down there doing paperwork. They're allowed to do paperwork. That's what they're allowed to do. They're allowed to do logistics. They're not allowed to be infantrymen on American soil. They're not allowed to point their weapons on American soil. Posse comitatus, look it up. And so there may be, I don't know, I'm going to guess a governor from Utah or, a red state governor from Montana that, may see the military operating on their territory as offensive, and the people there might also see it as an infringement on their right to invoke posse comitatus. Because let me tell you something, militias know about posse comitatus, which is why they say they're the 3%ers and why they say they're, a militia guy, is because the military can't help them. So it just might, reverberate through our society that the military acting on our street. The only time I ever saw anything that even remotely looked like it, do you remember the little green men in Washington? Remember that? That was freaky, okay? And what did they do? Well, they had their insignias and their names covered up with Velcro patches. Do you remember that? So that you didn't even know where they were from. Like, you couldn't tell if it was Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine. It was just, green camo outfits with, Velcro taped over the name area. And turned out they were prison guards. And they were there to look like the military, standing on the steps in Washington, D.C. of various buildings in this menacing fashion. And this was in lieu of using the military, because at that time you had guardrails, as they call them, human beings like General Milley and Esper, the Secretary of Defense. Now, remember, they want Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense. He would be the Mark Esper who would have to say to Donald Trump, you cannot use the military on American soil. You cannot shoot Americans. Not even in the leg. Not even in the leg. Why? Posse comitatus. All right. So she is saying she's not going to participate, and neither are any of the 23 Democratic governors. And it's an amazing thing to read their plan, okay? And the plan is in the New York Times, and it's not from today, though. I think I put it in the homework so that you could have it today, but it's from a few days ago. It's called Democrats Draw Up an Entirely New Anti-Trump Battle Plan. That is the wordy headline. It's written by Reed Epstein and Lisa Lehrer. Now, why is that important? Because if you're Googling it, you need that, okay? And then you can find it. Or you can go to randyrhodes.com and you'll find it. It's there, okay? And this is instead what they are looking to have happen.
How can you strengthen the border in New Mexico? What's the compromise?
It is this border bill. I'm really clear that this is a federal issue. I want, and you're right, New Mexicans want, whether they live at the southern border or they live in the northern side of the state, or the northern part of the state. I need more border patrol agents. We want more interdictions on the drug trafficking and human trafficking and bringing guns across. We want all of that. I need technology and fentanyl screening. I want cameras. We want all the smart devices and efforts. I need real personnel at the border. And this notion that we are politicizing, not putting resources where we are decades behind, including you need more people at the ports of entry where these issues occur without interfering with economic efforts, because Mexico is now our largest U.S. trading partner. You want food prices to be lowered? You better figure out what you're doing at the border, where we're bringing in fresh produce and taking it over all of the time. We need this border bill passed, and we need folks hired at the border, and I will do everything I can. And I don't know a Democratic governor who doesn't want Congress to act here.
I don't know any governor that doesn't want Congress to act here. The only person I know who wanted Congress not to act here was Donald Trump, so he would have the issue. And my God, he played that issue like a drum, and idiots in this country fell for it. Like the I love the low information voter. I love the poorly educated. They actually fell for it. And now they're willing to allow their country to see the military operating in their streets. That is just an enormous amount of selling that went on there. when there was a bill that was a bipartisan bill that was negotiated by James Langford, the uber conservative from Oklahoma, along with Chris Murphy, not an uber conservative, a Democrat from Connecticut, and Kirsten Sinema, not an uber anything. She was she's going to be a lobbyist. Also wanted money. Okay, became an independent. That didn't really work for her. So now she's going to go straight up and legalize the bribery. She's going to be a lobbyist. But those three had a bill. And Donald Trump said, pretend you don't. Do nothing. I need the issue. I need people to hate. It's the only way I can get back into the office, and I'm not going to jail. And that's the only way I can stay out of jail, is if I'm president. Wow.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Oh, my God. It went so fast. 47 after, Brother David. Oh.
It's full frontal fascism Friday 2.0, sister.
No, it's anti-fascist Friday. That's what
well, I know, but yes, it is anti-fascist. There are three things that have given me a sliver, or should I say a cuticle of hope. The first is the Democratic Governors Association, which I'm now subscribed to. I have been for a while, but now I'm giving them, $3 I can give at a time. And what you were just talking about, because that is going to be our bulwark.
Okay, I got other groups for you. If anybody's interested, you can scribble these down, okay? Democracy Forward. Democracy Forward.
Oh, yes.
It's a legal group. It was formed after Trump won in 2016. It has built itself into a multi-million-dollar war chest, and it has 800 lawyers that belong to it that are ready for a full-throated legal response to anything, that seems to be illegal that Donald Trump might order.
Precisely.
Right. And so there's them. And there's also, that's another good organization.
Oh, yes. Yes.
This is where
And then the third thing is that my favorite TV show, which you turned me on, which is sadly in its now last season, Somebody Somewhere, reminds me that there are still people that actually can, communicate with each other and, bridge whatever gaps, because we're going to need each other really, really bad, because we're kind of all we have.
Yeah, we are. But there's a lot of us. And so we're in good hands with each other. We really are. And the rest of them, let them do their thing. Let them do them. We'll do us. There's really no comparison. There's, if you contrast their anger with our grace, if you contrast their anger and grievances with our ability to fix things, there's no comparison. So let them go over there and we'll be over here.
It's our strength.
Yeah.
And finally, lesson 20, be as courageous as you can. If none of us is prepared to die for freedom, then all of us will die under tyranny. And I'm not ready to die yet.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, thanks for that. He's been writing like crazy. Timothy Snyder.
Mr. Snyder.
Yeah. He's been just trying very, very hard. So
this may be the time for the gorgeous girdles concern, Randi. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe I do. Maybe I do that on the kibbutz. Maybe that's what I do.
That's what I'm thinking. We'll all have to look pretty.
Yeah.
Love you always.
Me too. You. Okay, so American Bridge, good organization. Democracy Forward Legal Group, good organization. The DNC is a good organization. This is who's going to organize the pushback, okay, just so you know. And obviously, there's 23, we have 50 states, so it's kind of half the country. Half the country is going to push back. That's a good thing. You should use that as the soothing salve that is, being put over the wound as they stand there at the ready with their thing of sea salt to pour in. Screw that. I'm not going there. I'm not going to despair. And I'm not protesting, okay? I'm just not doing it. You do it. I'm not doing it. But, so outside of Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey, I think we're in good hands with Tony Evers in Wisconsin. Here's a governor you may not know because she's kind of new, Maura Healey of Massachusetts, excellent. Andy Beshear of Kentucky, Michelle Lujan Grisham, New Mexico, Evers of Wisconsin, Josh Green of Hawaii, believe it or not, Josh Shapiro, newly elected, Pennsylvania. Also, a very capable attorney general, okay? Very, very savvy, very smart, understands the law, knows how to defend a state from fraud, from insurrection, from invasion. Good pick there. Who else do we got? We got a whole bunch. Just like, Gavin Newsom, of course, in California. We have some serious people that are serious about not letting bad things happen in their state. And, you got to believe that will carry the day, because the visuals of what they're preaching over there, the visuals of people, I just can't even imagine, like raids in the United States, raids and neighbors, turning neighbors in like the freaking Stasi. Do you know what I mean? And now it'll be the digital Stasi. We went over that this week, too. Okay? I mean, it's like Elon, and let me tell you something. There's a new group, too. You know Rick Wilson, right? Rick Wilson from Lincoln Group. So he's just now doing another group. It's called, this has to be a shout out to Orwell. It's the only reason I could think of for the name of it. Because in Orwell, Big Brother would do the 2 minutes hate and make you just so angry that you had to follow, the dear leader, you had to follow him. And then they would actually make you believe his lies. So if he said, we were always at war with Eurasia, and then the next day he would say, we were always at war with, someplace else. Whatever he said, you would believe. And then the ultimate test was, what is 2 + 2? Because the leader would tell you that 2 + 2, Big Brother would tell you 2 + 2 is 5. 5, even though it's not. So Rick Wilson just started this new organization called 2 + 2, and I got to assume that's that's what it's about.
It's funny you should mention Lincoln Project, because they didn't put anything out after the first week plus of the election results, and they finally released that video that we're playing in our breaks now. I exhaled. I was like, oh, good. He's still fighting.
It's not Lincoln Group anymore. So now he's, like I said, he started this new group called 2 + 2. And the 2 + 2 coalition plans to target their resources on the disinformation and expose the people who propel it into the universe for who they are. And one of his, top targets is Elon Musk. And he, Rick Wilson can put things in a way that nobody else can. So I'm reading a quote from him about, his organization. He said, my organization will operate as an opposition research firm, but with military-grade intelligence gathering that goes far beyond the document vetting typical of a political campaign. So, and he wants to explain to you, who Elon Musk really is. He said a lot of people in the center and on the left have for a long time sort of bemoaned Fox, but they haven't done anything about it. And now he sees the little media that we have being splintered and being spun off and being, thrown out into the hinterlands, into the wilderness. Now, I'll tell you, the last time private equity bought anything, they bought radio stations, the ones that I worked on. And, at the time that Bain Capital, which was Mitt Romney's investment firm, it was Mitt Romney's private equity firm, Bain Capital came and bought a whole bunch of Clear Channel, okay? And they gutted it so that people were voice tracked. This is how people ended up on 3 and 4 radio stations in the same marketplace. Not me, because I was an inconvenient message, right? I mean, you got to realize that billionaires don't want to hear what we're saying, because we're saying you pay your taxes, pay more. You earn much more and you pay much less than a secretary. That's wrong. They don't want to hear this message, and they don't want you to hear this message, more importantly. So Bain Capital came in, they swooped in, and they bought all these Clear Channel stations, and slowly but surely, the ones that I was on, they started flipping them to sports, so that no one could say, oh, they were replacing progressive media with Rush Limbaugh. No. They were replacing me with sports and using, sports is more popular. Those stations. So when I first came to Air America, the only reason why I got hired, because I brought 65 Clear Channel affiliates with me. Everyone else was from television, remember? right? I was not. I was radio. They didn't know what to do with a radio person. By the time I was done, the 65 radio stations I was on had flipped to sports, and I was left with 11. And then Mitt Romney ran for president because there was no one to push back. Mitt Romney screwed himself because he recorded himself putting down the 47%. The people that I was broadcasting to, the 47%. We're now 50%, but okay, there's that. So go, Rick Wilson, go get him.